Yeah, just an overall viewpoint of how this team is 2-5. It's multiple reasons offensively, lack of any semblance of a consistent running game. They're one of the least efficient rushing offenses in football.
We do have this Keystone State matchup this Sunday. The Pittsburgh Steelers, 2-5, coming into Philadelphia, where they haven't won since 1965. And here to talk about it is our good friend Alex Kozora, who works for SteelersDepot.com. In my estimation, the best Steelers website on the planet, man. You guys have been at this for quite some time, Alex. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that.
How long have you been doing that website?
I've been there almost a decade. The site was founded in 2008, and we've certainly grown a lot. And this year's been a unique year to cover this team, but it's still been a fun one overall.
It is a unique year. We're going to get into it. And you guys also do a great job for all the draftniks out there. Come draft season, you guys are covered all over it. And that's why Steelers Depot is one of my favorite sites. It's been fun to watch you guys grow as the NFL Draft Bible has grown. And we wanted to pop you on here and talk about the Steelers matchup because, as you mentioned, Mike Tomlin's not used to losing. He has never had a record under 500. It looks like that season's trending in that direction. It's funny because their 2 wins, they did beat Tom Brady and Joe Burrow, but the TJ Watt injury there early on in the season was kind of a deflating moment. I don't think they've been able to find their way since then. What have you noticed, and what can we expect to see out here on Sunday? Give us a synopsis.
Yeah, just an overall viewpoint of how this team is 2-5. It's multiple reasons offensively, lack of any semblance of a consistent running game. They're one of the least efficient rushing offenses in football. The lack of the big play. They're the only team in football not to have a 20-plus yard run. They only have one 40-plus yard pass play this year, which came on a broken play against Tampa Bay to the rookie tight end Connor Hayward. And so when your offense that isn't efficient, struggles to stay on schedule, below average on third down, and you're not hitting the big play downfield, it's really tough to score. They're averaging 15.4 points per game. It's on pace to be their worst average scoring season since 1970, which was Terry Bradshaw's first year with the Pittsburgh Steelers, his rookie season. Defensively, of course, losing TJ Watt, this team has more sacks in week 1 with TJ Watt than they have in the 6 games combined without TJ Watt. Alex Highsmith doing a nice job, but overall, the consistent pressure has not been there. Had some injuries in the secondary as well. And so put that all together with the overall thought of over the last 2 years, 2020, 2021, Pittsburgh was 15-4-1 in one possession games. That was the best record in football. This year, they're 2-3 in such games. And so they have not been able to finish out games, losing Ben a part of that. And that's why this team is 2-5.
Yeah, it's been a lot of struggles there in Pittsburgh, and we used to know them as Blitzburgh, right? They led the league in sacks the last 5 years, not so much this year. TJ Watt, as you just mentioned, a big reason why. Let's try to decipher the offense. You mentioned the lack of big plays, but I look at the weapons on this team. There are some playmakers: George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Pat Freiermuth. What is it? The play calling? Is it the offensive line? Is it the quarterback controversy? Is it a combination, or is it D? All of the above.
Yeah, it's D. It's all the above. When it's this bad, it's probably unfair to pin it on just one thing. You're right. On paper, the weapons look good, but some of those guys haven't always played to their talent. And I think, from execution and schematic standpoint, those guys haven't always been elevated to their talent. Pittsburgh's been a very much outside the numbers type offense. Not a lot of run after catch opportunities, which hurts a guy like Deontay Johnson. Not enough probably vertical shots to a guy like George Pickens, who really has made his calling with some of those one-on-one opportunities downfield. And I would say Matt Canada's offense, well, I understand you're dealing with new quarterbacks and a turnover there, starting both Trubisky and then Kenny Pickett and going back and forth at times due to injury. The offense has been extremely limited, very pared down, and I think it's as easy an offense to scout and game plan for as there probably is in football. So for a variety of reasons, again, a lack of a run game not helping things either. This offense just tries to play for third manageable, and frankly, they're not even that good at succeeding in third manageable situations.
Yeah, that's been kind of the knock that I've seen is, hey, if it's 3rd and 7, they're going to throw a 6-yard pass. If it's 3rd and 5, they're going to probably throw like a 4-yard slant. I know Chase Claypool was kind of critical with some of his comments after the last game. I've heard mixed reports from the national level in terms of whether or not he's on the trade market. You heard the Packers might be interested, but then I saw some of the Steelers writers saying this is just a media fabrication. I don't know why they would want to trade a guy like Mapletron, who's relatively young. He's big, he's athletic. He maybe has not been the most consistent, but again, I'm not watching every Steelers game. I just see the highlights. I see flashes. I see big plays. I see a big athletic wide receiver. Is there any truth to the trade rumors, or where does Chase Claypool's status stand here?
Yeah, I would put the odds of Claypool being moved as low, not zero, not impossible. And certainly, if the Steelers lose to the Eagles on Sunday, they're 2-6. Their season is effectively over. Only one team in NFL history has ever started a year 2-6 and made the playoffs. And so that may motivate them to sell a bit more. But Claypool still has one more year on his rookie deal. Certainly, as you said, the measurables look good on paper. Looks good. Height, weight, speed. It just this team has not been able to find a fit for him schematically in this offense. Drafted to be that outside vertical Z type receiver, never really been consistently good enough there, at least not since his rookie season in terms of stacking guys and making those big splash plays downfield. This year, moving to that big slot role to replace Juju Smith-Schuster. Big slot becomes pretty common around the NFL. Cooper Kupp, Chris Godwin, others, but he's not really as technical as a route runner and doesn't have that great feel to play inside. So honestly, like I would be open to trading him just because I don't know where he fits, how he wins in this offense. But I do imagine his team more likely than not to hold on to him just to try to give Kenny Pickett as many weapons as possible.
All right, interesting stuff. We're talking to Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Let me ask you about Najee Harris, who I was a big fan of coming out of Alabama. Now, he's probably one of the exhibits that I'll use as to why I don't like to draft running backs in the first round. And I was stunned, quite frankly, when I was doing research for the Steelers matchup and saw that he's only averaging 3.3 yards per carry for such a big bruising running back. And again, I got to ask you, is it, Jalen Warren looks like he's been giving some spurts of injection into the offense. So is it performance? Is it offensive line? Is it combination of both? Are we ready to peg Najee Harris with the first round bust label, or are we not there yet?
Yeah, I wouldn't be there yet in terms of the bust label. I still think Najee's a really talented guy. I don't want to let what he did as a rookie, which was impressive overall, necessarily cloud or change too quickly or too harshly my judgment of him. But certainly the results have not been there. As you mentioned, that 3.3 yards per carry, this run game has not generated big plays. His longest run of the year is 16 yards. And so when you're not getting those big explosive plays, it's hard to have a pretty healthy yards per carry number. Now, I think the offensive line run blocking has struggled. Generally speaking, they've done a decent job at the first level, but second level linebackers have been running free all season long, whether that's Levante David and Devin White against Tampa Bay, Matt Milano against Buffalo. I think the line has work to do there. I think the line has been better than expectations overall. Figured coming into the year they'd be a bottom 3 unit. They've probably been about average overall, but still not where this unit in this run game needs to be. Now, Harris had the foot injury in the summer, aggravated something in week 1. I think he's generally past that, but that certainly did not start his season off on the right foot. And frankly, in pass protection, which was one of the better things he did last year, he has really struggled in pass pro. And Jalen Warren, as you mentioned, has become this team's new third down back. So for right now, Najee Harris is not this team's every down back. He's their first and second down back. Jalen Warren has done well on third down. So I'm not giving up on Najee, but certainly both him and this run game at large have to improve.
Yeah, I mean, the offense is evolving, right? And at the quarterback position, especially, they've now handed the keys to the Cadillac, so to speak, over to Kenny Pickett, the Jersey Shore gunslinger. Coach Ric Serritella had nothing but kudos and praise in his presser yesterday in terms of when he was asked of what he thought of Pickett coming out of college. He said, hey, accurate passer, intelligent off the charts, quick decision maker, underrated with the legs, can move the chains when needed. What have you made of Kenny Pickett's performance thus far? Obviously, the turnovers have been the biggest issue, but is he providing the Steelers organization and fans with enough glimpses of hope to show that he can fill these very big shoes that have been left here from Big Ben?
I think he has in moments. I think Coach Sirianni's scouting report is really accurate overall. That was Pickett coming out of Pitt, and that's basically what he's been. I think he's had confidence. I think the moment hasn't been too big for him, which is expected for an older quarterback, 24 years old, 5-year guy in college. You know, some of these guys come out, they're underclassmen, they're redshirt sophomore, they're juniors. They're not maybe ready to meet that moment right away. Pickett, kind of a different story there. So I think, again, the lack of a run game, how much has been put on his shoulders, as you said, given the keys in the two games he started, start to finish, he's thrown the ball 52 and 44 times. Not ideal for what you want your rookie quarterback to come out of the gate with overall. And while I think he's played better than what some of the stats show, the bottom line is this is a production results oriented business. And I'm not ready to conclude anything on Kenny Pickett. I'm still learning. I think no one should conclude what Pickett is or isn't right now. But as you said, 2 touchdowns, 7 picks, and in the 2 full games he's played, this offense has put up 3 and 10 points against Buffalo and Miami. That's just not going to get the job done. So that's what this team has to work towards. For Pickett, I'm just watching him. Will he progress from where he started to where he ends? Is he avoiding making the same mistake twice? Those are the things I will really watch for his rookie season before I make any conclusions about what the future holds for him and for this franchise.
No, the NFL is a bottom line business. And so, with that being said, I got to ask you, Alex, because you mentioned it's been an uncharacteristic season in Pittsburgh. They're not used to losing. I don't think Mike Tomlin's going to throw in the towel as long as he's mathematically in the hunt. So, with that being said, we saw Trubisky kind of rally the troops off the bench due to injury a couple weeks ago. Could we possibly see Trubisky here due to bad performance? Is there a rally of the troops based on performance, or is it just like, hey, it's Pickett's job now, and we're just going to ride it till the wheels fall off?
I would say it's very doubtful to see Trubisky come in unless there's an injury to Kenny Pickett. I think the last thing Mike Tomlin wants to do is play quarterback roulette and flip flop back and forth between each guy. That's probably not good for either of those guys and not good for the team overall. This team made the choice to go to Kenny Pickett, and that's a choice that they're going to have to stick with. Mitch Trubisky almost certainly will not be a Steeler next year. And so, again, really assuming this is a lost season and the season probably ends more or less unofficially Sunday if they lose to the Eagles, the rest of the year becomes a fact finding mission about what you have in Kenny Pickett. And the more that you can learn, the more reps he can get. I understand the value in sitting and learning to a degree, but in the NFL, you learn by doing, by going out there, getting reps, making mistakes, and learning from them. And so Tomlin does not want to have either quarterback look over their shoulder and say, am I going to get benched because I had one bad pass or one bad game? So, barring something unforeseen and dramatically poor, Kenny Pickett will be this quarterback the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I agree with that, by the way. I don't think you can replace in-game experience, right? There's nothing better than in-game experience. And I think the Steelers will be better for it in the long run. They're going to take their lumps here in the short run. And, we'll see where it all goes from here. Now, I thought Trubisky signed a 2-year deal, or was it a 1-year
No,
deal?
it was a 2-year deal, but it's really hard to see him going with his salary to be the backup next year. So either that's a
Sure.
release, a trade. I mean, he's under contract, you're right, but I just can't see a scenario in which he's comfortably backing up Kenny Pickett next year.
Okay, fair enough. Alex Kozora here, SteelersDepot.com. Make sure you check him out on Twitter. He's one of the best follows around when it comes to Pittsburgh and NFL draft. And I'm sure we'll have him back here come draft season. Let's shift gears over to the defensive side of the ball, Alex. In terms of key players at each level, I see obviously Cam Hayward, who I would put as arguably a strong candidate for Canton, in my opinion, up front. You've got Alex Smith, Highsmith, who you mentioned earlier. And I think I just call him the Energizer Bunny because this guy just has a motor that doesn't quit. And he's just going to be relentless in pursuit and continue to chase the quarterback with or without TJ Watt. He's the high motor guy. And then in the back end, Minka Fitzpatrick is a guy who can get his hands on the football, make some turnovers, gets a lot of pass breakups there. Where is the overall strengths, though, of the defensive unit? Where are the weaknesses that the Eagles could look to exploit here?
Yeah, to start with the weaknesses, this defense has been, they've held the score down. They've done their job overall. They've certainly been the better unit of the two comparing defense to offense. But again, it's that lack of a pass rush. As you mentioned, they're Blitzburg. And really, they had been blitzing less. They had really been able to rush 4, drop 7. That's ideal with any sort of defense whenever you can rush 4 and still get to the quarterback because they had TJ Watt, because they had a really strong front overall. You eliminate Watt, and they're still just trying to rush 4 and drop 7, generally speaking, and it's, of course, not nearly as effective. They had 50-plus sacks in 5 straight seasons. They're on pace for 29 right now, and again, that's obviously due to the loss of TJ Watt, but it's still surprising to see how dramatically worse it's been, but there's that domino effect. Whenever Watt's out, now the line can slide to Cam Hayward. They can slide to Alex Highsmith, and it makes it a lot easier to take those guys out of the equation. In terms of the strengths of this defense, there are still some star talent. Cam Hayward, while has not been super effective as a pass rusher, is still one of the best interior defensive linemen in football. And his run defense, his ability to bull rush and collapse the pocket is still among the best of anyone that you'll see out there. Alex Highsmith was at one point, I think, heading into last week, leading the league with 6.5 sacks. He's a good effort guy, motor guy, as you said, with a good pass rush plan overall. They're a bit better an off-ball linebacker with Miles Jack, but over from Jacksonville, Devin Bush is playing a bit better as well, and they're getting healthier in the secondary with guys like Minka Fitzpatrick returning, maybe Keller Witherspoon returns, Cam Sutton should be healthier, and Terrell Edmonds, their strong safeties, had a strong year as that typical classic box safety overall. But again, they really have prided themselves on getting pressure, creating those big splash plays, and that has not happened this year.
I want to ask you about Levy Wallace because I saw here it looks like he came back last week off of a concussion and then came back and got re-injured, I think an ankle or something. Do we know what his status is for the game? I know the corners especially are banged up. Are there any other injuries outside of TJ Watt that we should be aware of? And what are you hearing with Levy Wallace?
Yeah, Wallace had a shoulder that happened late last week, and he did not practice on Wednesday. Mike Tomlin Tuesday did not sound optimistic that Wallace would play, so we'll still have to see what the Thursday, Friday injury report outlines, but probably not on Levi Wallace. Keller Witherspoon's been out since the Browns game earlier this year. He should be back, so it'll probably be some combination of Witherspoon, Cam Sutton, James Pierre on the outside. And they got a nickel corner, Arthur Millette, who's like a small linebacker that plays in rundowns. The Eagles use quite a bit of two tight end sets, and so you could see Millette try to knife in on some of those situations.
Yeah, I like Millette, man. He's kind of like a little X factor on that defense there for Pittsburgh. Not really the marquee name that you think of, but comes up with a big play every now and then. So it's something to keep an eye on for Sunday. Let me ask you about special teams, Alex, because I saw TJ Watt won't be back this week. I think he'll be back after the bye, which would put him on target for the Saints game.
Right.
I also saw the Memphis wide receiver, Calvin Austin, I think we remember coming out of Memphis. He also will not be activated off the IR. Now, I heard they were talking about activating him, maybe making him the return guy. Looks like he's going to be shelved on the IR for the rest of the year, which I'm assuming this Gunnar Oslewski is going to
Olszewski.
be.
Yeah.
So what's the deal? Because he's had a couple muffs here. I know they brought him in during the offseason, and he's kind of had some big moments. He's also had some low moments. So what are we expecting from the special teams units?
Yeah, Austin, he had a setback with a foot injury suffered this summer, so unfortunate for him. He's out for the year. We'll see. It could be Olszewski, but they have another guy, Steven Sims, who had replaced Gunnar Olszewski and actually had a big 89-yard kick return in that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. Had a hamstring injury, I believe, late in that game, and so he did not play against Miami. So if Sims is healthy, and I'm not quite sure if he's going to play this week, and it's still probably too early to tell, Sims should be the kick and punt returner. If not, then it'll be Gunnar Olszewski. So special teams, Presley Harvin has been middling, maybe a bit better than his rookie year, but he's still 28th in average, 16th in net. Got to be better there overall. Chris Boswell, one of the top kickers in football from 50 plus. He's been money, so that's certainly going to help out a struggling offense. The return game overall, Sims has provided that boost. And then in terms of their coverage units, have been pretty strong overall. Derek Watts, one of the top coverage guys. Watch out for wide receiver Miles Boykin to be one of the best gunners in football, a guy that I think demands vices and double teams and a lot of attention. He's a receiver. He knows how to use his hands and get off press. So the way that the gunner jammer relationship work is kind of like a receiver getting off the line, running a route. And Boykin has been one of the top gunners in football.
You know, I lost tabs on Miles Boykin. Good one there, Alex. Yeah, he was a player coming out of college. It's good to see him carving a little niche on special teams. And Steven Sims, I will tell you, is a guy that we had out at the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. And when he was healthy with the Commanders, he was a good return specialist, but they would bring him in and run some end arounds and reverses. And he's got speed when healthy. But as you know, healthy is, the big concern when it comes to Steven Sims. Man, great insight, great intel. Before I get a prediction, Alex, again, I know Steelers Depot does a great job covering the NFL draft. Where are you with your draft assessment? Do you guys wait until January to start revving that up? Have you been kind of peeking at some of the prospects in this year's draft class? And if so, who are a quarterback or two atop your board?
We're probably getting close to peaking because it's 2-5, and usually it's not focusing on that stuff at all until February. But with the way the Steelers season's going, frankly, I don't pay a lot of attention to that because I'm so just all in on the season. We do have one writer on the site, Jonathan Heitritter. You can follow him. He's kind of our draft guy in season. He does a great job overall. So frankly, I don't have a lot of insight. I just recognize it'll be a different conversation as opposed to what guy could Pittsburgh get at pick 23? Now it's a top 10 pick, maybe a top 5 pick. And that's a place Pittsburgh's not been in quite some time. So it'll be interesting to look at blue chip prospects, top guys, and be in the mix for them for once. I don't really know any names off the top, but I'm sure it'll be a different feeling. And it'll be interesting because it's a new regime. It's a new GM, new assistant GM, Omar Khan, Andy Weidel. And they got hired in May last year after free agency, after the draft. So this offseason will really be the first time they can construct the roster in their vision, and that could make some pretty big changes in Pittsburgh happen.
Yeah, Kevin Colbert did a really good job there for quite significant part of time. The Pittsburgh Steelers are also a strong history traditionally when it comes to the NFL draft of being one of the better teams. And Steelers Depot, I'll tell you, I don't check out many websites for draft coverage, but you guys always do a great job there. And tell our listening audience where to find all your great content. Alex, where they can follow you, what you have on deck coming up at Steelers Depot.
Sure. You can follow the site, SteelersDepot.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. For Eagles fans, because I know they don't care about the Steelers stuff too much, but every Friday, myself, Jonathan Heitritter, and Josh Carney, we do an Eagle or an opponent, in this case, Eagles scouting reports. We have an offensive, defensive scouting report. Been watching the Eagles offense quite a bit. It's a fun offense to watch. Just some of the wrinkles in there are really interesting. Even with stuff like quarterback sneaks, you guys have the pusher, had a victory formation quarterback sneak a couple weeks ago. So some really cool stuff there with Jalen Hurts. That offense has been a lot of fun to watch. And frankly, I'm pretty jealous watching Pittsburgh's offense, which is as stale and boring as anything. You turn on the Eagles tape and it's a lot more exciting to observe.
Yeah, did the Eagles do a shotgun victory formation? Is that what the one you were talking about?
No, it was a quarterback sneak against either the Cowboys or Cardinals. It was 2nd and 2, and it was a victory formation, and it was just kind of the pusher. They all moved forward. I've never seen that before. I just think it was a cool wrinkle. You guys love the quarterback sneak. I think you did it on the goal line 4 times in a row in that one game. So
we
wild
call
stuff.
them rugby scrums here, Alex.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Yeah. Shout out to Brian Baldinger for coming up with the term. I can't steal it, but it's exactly what it is. I mean, they got guys that run in motion, and they'll have somebody pushing Jalen from the back. They'll have somebody wrap him up and bear hug him and bring him over frontwards to the goal line, whatever they got to do to get the job done. I know you're always getting the job done there at Steelers Depot. Give us a score prediction. 11-point underdogs last time I checked. Steelers haven't won in Philly since 1965. What do you see as the outcome on Sunday?
Frankly, I haven't given it a lot of thought. Still going through the tape. I'm going to go with the Eagles. I'll go, pretty conventional there. I don't know the score for sure. I will just off the top say Philadelphia 27, Pittsburgh 14, something like that.
Okay. Well, you made our listening audience happy, and we appreciate the time, Alex. Hopefully we can pop you back on down the road when it is draft season. Would love to pick your brain a little bit more. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out, my man.
Awesome. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. Take care.